Yechaya El, Meitim Yechaya El. El, or God, will be Yechaye, God will give life to the Meitim, the dead. This is unbelievable. I mean, at least those of us who live in the 21st century, is this something that we believe? People have struggled with this for a long time. Let me give you a brief bit of background. The rabbis, as I've noted before, are likely the spiritual descendants of the Pharisees. And you remember the Pharisees were one of a number of Jewish sects competing for the sympathies of the masses at the time of the late Second Temple period. You had the Sadducees, who were the aristocracy. They were very much the people who were running the temple. You had Essenes, these ascetic people. You have the Pharisees, who are the pre-rabbis, and they have a very different outlook on Jewish life from the Sadducees. The Sadducees did not believe in the oral law. There was the written text of the Torah, and we go by that. The Pharisees said, no, there's this oral tradition, this oral Torah, and a lot of that is recorded, a lot of the oral Torah is recorded in the Midrash, the Mishnah, the Gemara. These are our heirlooms of this oral Torah. The Pharisees also believe in resurrection of the dead and immortality of the soul. This is these are those two things are separate, but they sort of become enmeshed as one broader idea. The idea of immortality of the soul is a Hellenistic Greek notion that becomes part of Jewish language in the 3rd or 2nd century BCE, and the Pharisees and the rabbis grab onto that. It's kind of ironic because the Sadducees, who ran the temple, they're often seen as people who were more Hellenized and more involved with the Hellenistic ways of first the Greek rulers and then later the Roman rulers, and the Pharisees were more parochial. But this is an exception. This is a Hellenistic idea, the idea of immortality of the soul, that makes its way into Pharisaic and rabbinic thought. Why do they adopt this? Why does this become a central theme in Jewish life? Well, the Pharisees are seeing how lots of Jews are really getting a raw deal. That they're living a pious lifestyle, and they're doing their best to follow the ways of God, and they keep getting their communities destroyed by these outer powers. And so this Hellenistic idea that there's a world beyond this current world takes greater hold, and it becomes much more compelling. We might the wicked may get the best of us in this world, but in the world to come, we will triumph. The good will get their just reward, and the wicked will get their just deserts.
Was this also an enhanced development of the Mashiach during this concept of eternal life of the soul?
Well, there are the development of the idea of the Mashiach is one that, yeah, it is in development at this time as well. The idea that a descendant of David will come at the time of redemption, restore order and restore the Davidic line, which is seen as the ideal. There are not echoes, but there are sources for that in the Bible,
Right.
but it becomes much more prominent later
Because
on.
when I was young, I also learned, or as my father said, since the soul lives, immortal, based on what you're just saying, that when the Mashiach comes, these souls that were tzedek or righteous would come back after with the Mashiach. So it's like a continuation or a continuum of time that, as you're saying, what you do in this world will predicate what happens in the next world, and then the coming of the Mashiach.
Right. So this is all a very complex issue, and the rabbis are drawing from different world views. The more Eastern tradition, remember there was the Persian rule, and Persians had great influence on the development of Jewish thought. The idea of resurrection of the dead was much more. It was taken much more from those Eastern traditions, and then the immortality of the soul from the Greek Hellenistic worldview, and they kind of become interspersed here.
So you're saying the resurrection of the dead was actually resurrecting the physical body versus the soul?
Yes,
Oh.
yes.
So, but that's like Ezekiel. That's why Ezekiel and the dry
Right,
bones,
right,
the
we have-
valley of dry bones, and this wheel with the
It's
wheel.
spooky.
Right.
It's Christianity.
Yes.
It's Christianity,
No,
and it-
it's Judaism.
Hey, they
But
took
I
it
mean,
from us.
They took it
Let's
from-
one at a time. Read a.
Neil
took it from who?
pointed out that the last
They took it from
paragraph of Chad Gadya, who is, what happened to the last paragraph, Chad Gadya?
Takes
I don't know,
one.
there's 13.
The angel of
The angel,
of death
yeah,
is destroyed.
yeah, so that's Chiyat HaMetim.
Right. So once the source of death is
Yeah.
destroyed, then
Yeah.
eternal life.
Mortality.
Yeah.
Your question comes here, and I don't know, do the Jews believe, and I think they do not, the concept of hell? I mean, being that that's the place where you don't want to go, and so you better be good, so you'll go to the good place.
There are.
I mean,
Yeah,
what is our view about that?
It's not as developed as in other faith traditions. That there is the idea of Gehinnom, which is Gehenna. If you go to Jerusalem, if you've ever been to the Cinematheque, which is the artsy movie place, it overlooks this valley just outside the old city gates, and that valley is the valley of Gehinnom, where there were sacrifices to Molech. There were child sacrifices to the god Molech, and it was considered a really horrible place because of these child sacrifices. And this valley was called Gehinnom. So in literature, as it develops, Gehinnom or Gehenna in Yiddish is considered hell. But the concept of bad people burning in hell, there are voices of that, but it's not as developed, not nearly as developed as like you have in Dante's Inferno or Christian literature. Really, it's if you're good, you get life in the world to come. That is much more widespread.
Isn't the study of Job kind of a reflection of how we feel about punishment?
Elaborate on that.
Because he had so many evil, sad, horrible things befall him. And the belief was, or the feeling that prevails is, we really don't know why, but there isn't a reason. It could be from his predecessors,
Mhm.
but there isn't, and I may not be remembering correctly, we really can't make the explanation. It's in God's hands.